And welcome to Education, Leadership, and Beyond, Surviving and Thriving. It is show number 112, and good afternoon to you. Thank you so much for tuning in. My name is Andrew Murata, host of the program, and excited to be back on with you. We had some technical difficulties the past couple of weeks, working out some things with Be Live here, and looking to change a couple of things to make sure that doesn't happen again. So I know you missed us, but very happy to be back. And I'm excited to talk to Brian McCann tonight. Brian's a principal in Massachusetts. He's the 2018 Principal of the Year. We're going to talk about that and what that's meant for him, his school, his community. He grew up in that community, and now he's the principal there. Super excited after some technical difficulties to be with the Digital Principal of the Year. So I do want to thank today's sponsor. It's the Coaching and Leadership Journal by my friend Dan Spanauer in North Carolina. This is the January edition, and we just came off Martin Luther King Day yesterday. And here, look, as a school leader, right, here's on the cover, Leadership Qualities of Martin Luther King. I've used this journal 3 or 4 times since it came out. I did a speaking engagement in school about Martin Luther King. I did a radio program about Martin Luther King, and certainly put some tweets out yesterday about the leadership and the impact of Dr. King. And it's all right here from the Coaching and Leadership Journal in the January edition. So Dan has been nice enough to offer a discount code for Education, Leadership, and Beyond listeners, and that would be ELB20. You can get 20% off for the journal, and it's a great resource. It's a heavy-duty paper. Look how many pages it's got here. Just a wealth of information and great stories, right? So it's the Coaching and Leadership Journal. It's on the leadershippublishingteam.com, and it's super. I think it's a great resource. So I do want to thank him. Also, a second announcement here. I want to thank Chris Nessie and the Education Podcast Network. Big exciting news. Education, Leadership, and Beyond is now joining the Education Podcast Network. Very excited to be part of that team. So this podcast will be featured and played as part of that network. And I'm very excited to announce that agreement. And I want to thank Chris Nessie for his work, as well as believing in our podcast here. Let's get started. So I was in Boston for the National Principals Conference, and it was just a great event, a really great event. A ton of people. There was thousands of educators there. And then everywhere I seemed to turn around, there was this guy with a great sport coat, a big smile, and just had tremendous energy. The sport coats were different colors, and I just was like, wow, he must be the president or something, or he must be somebody. And I just said, this guy's got great energy, right? And I thought about, like, wow, the presence that this person had, the energy that he had. And sure enough, on social media, I'm connecting. I'm like, wait a minute, are you the great sport coat guy with the great personality from the National Principals Conference? And Brian and I hit it off at that moment, and we're going to meet him momentarily. The point I'm telling you for you school leaders, right? The point I want to share today is, what is the presence that you give off? What is the energy that you are giving off, the vibe, right? And I had not met Brian before that, but I knew just by being around him for a few moments that he's got an amazing personality, and he must be a tremendous school leader. And sure enough, he was the 2018 Digital Principal of the Year for the National Association of Secondary School Principals. Without further ado, let's meet him. Boom, there he is. Brian, welcome to Education, Leadership, and Beyond.
Thank you, Andrew. Appreciate it.
So nice to finally connect with you. We had some hurdles here, but we made it.
There we go.
Brian, tell me, before we introduce you to our audience, what did you think of that opening concept? What do you believe that is true, that the presence we give as school leaders is an important thing? And what did you think of that?
Absolutely. Sometimes when I go to conferences, I would say I can find data on my own. I'm semi-smart. I can find the data I'm looking for. I can read the book here, but sometimes I just want to be around like-minded people who have that energy around them. So I'm very grateful that you said that, and certainly. I think we need to model in the school, our expectations. And if I, I never come and say, oh, I'm tired. Oh, I was up all night. The kids were sick. I come in ready to be. I say, you know what? I think I was awesome yesterday, and I'm going to be even more awesome today. And I think you need to approach it, because if you're not going to be all pumped if you're not going to be all pumped up about school, who is? If the principal isn't going to be, who is?
Well, you did that at the conference. And again, Malcolm Gladwell talks about thin slicing, and Amy Cuddy wrote the great book, Presence.
Oh.
But you were a living fact of that I had not even met you or spoke to you face to face, but I could tell your energy about your school and your love of education, and certainly representing in Boston, Massachusetts as well.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
That was impressive on your end. So Brian, let's introduce yourself for our audience here, and tell them who you are.
Yeah, sure. My Brian McCann. I'm from Swansea, Massachusetts. This is my 16th year of being the high school principal. Before that, I was the assistant principal for 4 years. Before that, I taught English and journalism for 11 years, and then I graduated from Joseph Case High School in 1980. So I've lived in Swansea since 1965. I moved a town north after I was married, so my wife could be closer to the commuter rail. But literally, since I've been as an adult at this high school since 1987, but continually since 1989. For about 18 months, I worked for the Navy in public affairs, and I did some newspaper writing and some television production. But I've been at my alma mater. I've been blessed to be at my alma mater. I've been through 5 accreditations of the high school. Isn't that crazy? 5 accreditations as a student, as a first-year teacher, as a first-year assistant principal. That one didn't go very well. About 10 years into my principalship, no, that's wrong. About 5 years into my principalship, and then now I'm raring to go for a 5th accreditation of the high school.
Wow.
Yeah, so I've been there a long time. I really believe in it. It's a small school. So I talk to friends around the country whose schools are close to 1,000, or some have multi-thousands of people. I have 535 students.
And someone just DM'd you.
Yeah, it's my
yeah.
There we go.
Brian, Belichick and Brady have been with the Patriots forever. How has that been for you, being in the same place the whole time, yet you're always coming with something new? You always have something fresh. How has that been for you to stay sharp by staying in the same place so long?
I'm like the historian. I have that perspective to know where we've been, to say, oh, this initiative, I think we did this one 15 years ago, or when I was a student, we did this. So I have great perspective at the high school. I also know the dangers of complacency. You just can't do it because that's the way you've always done it here. And thank you for acknowledging. I'm always looking for what not the next new things. I don't, I'm not attracted to every, shiny new object out there, but certainly they intrigue me. And then, but we're not afraid to take risks at the high school. Like, for example, a couple of years ago, I just couldn't find a reason to continue final exams. I was so sick of how the year ended, and I didn't like how the exams were. I didn't like how the kids were at the end. Honestly, all of a sudden I'm popular.
All of a sudden.
I didn't like how I didn't like anything about the end of the year. And when I gathered the leadership team, I asked, if you can give me one reason to continue to have mid-year and final exams, I'll consider it. Because I already have in place quarterly assessments. I can already tell you where you are on the curriculum map, and here's the assessment you need to know, how kids are doing, and it will guide, teaching and learning in the next term. That's already in place. What do we have these high stakes, poorly constructed, rapidly corrected tests for that are just high stressful situations that you have the alternate scheduled days that mess up January, and then the end of the year that just ends with a whimper. So I got rid of them. And for the last half days of school, we dedicate to personalized passions of teachers, and we have days where relationships are built and honed for the next year. And I still have the data. I can still tell you if you're ready that you finished Spanish 1, you're ready to go to Spanish 2. It doesn't make you any more college ready because no one could find me a course that started in September and ended in June and met every day. It's not the same. We have all of these things in place. So we're not afraid to take risks.
Well, good for you, Brian. And you were recognized, nationally in 2018 with this award being the Digital Principal of the Year, the NASSP. What did that mean for you and your school community, Brian?
What a wonderful honor. What a wonderful honor. And for our school community, it really opened up doors and possibilities. Just for example, last Wednesday, because of my affiliation with NASSP and the Digital Principals, we were one of 8 schools for this current school year to do a 30-minute virtual tour of the school. The offer was thrown out, and I grab any offer to showcase my school that's out there. And we went Facebook Live for we about 40 minutes, showing different components of the school, and we really looked under one lens of NASSP. They have a new publication called Building Ranks, and one of the components of it was what are you doing about human capital management? And I never even heard that term before. I said, that sounds terrible. That sounds like something of another century. It sounds like moving people from point A to point B. It sounds all bad. And then I read into it a little that day. Then I was put in these random groups to investigate different tenets, and I was put in human capital development. So I management. So I had to take it as a sign that this was something I needed to invest more in. And all it is basically is, what are you doing to cultivate the growth and development of your stakeholders, especially your teachers? What are you doing to bring them to the next level? What are you doing to make them live their dreams? Just going to warn you, I just heard the dog. It is pending.
You love your dog.
I love my dog. She'll be up.
You can bring her on the program. She's welcome.
Thank you. She'll be up shortly.
We take all types.
Obviously.
And Brian, did anything change for you? Did you feel more valued? Did you feel, what did that honor mean for you personally?
I really was blessed. I was blessed because it enabled me to connect with people I had never connected before. It absolutely opened doors for me. It afforded me the opportunity to speak to people. Because of it, I've spoken to principals in Alaska, in Oregon, in Utah. So that has been a wonderful opportunity I never would have had if I wasn't connected with this award. It's a award that 3 principals are chosen each year. It's only been going on, I believe, since 2011. So it is a very small, tight cohort. Certainly, we look out for each other, and there is such a wonderful camaraderie. My 2 fellow digital principals from 2018, Chris McBury and Mariah Rackley, I love those girls. I love them so much, and they're awesome leaders, and they push my thinking. They push my thinking because they're not afraid to say, yeah, why? Or have you thought about this? And I had, and for many things I hadn't. So I think there's so many people that are so much smarter than me that I am definitely learning from. It's been a wonderful, I'm going to say, blessing, and I cannot underestimate that word enough.
Yeah. Well, congratulations, and again, it was a nice honor. Then here you are hosting the conference the following year, which was a great event in Boston. Back to your community and your school, Brian, there's the term familiarity breeds contempt. When you've been there so long, right? People kind of, like you use the word complacency, do you see that you've been there that long? How do you avoid familiarity breeds contempt with some of your people that have been there a long time as well?
Well, it's, at present, there are only 2 part-time staff members at my high school who were teachers when I went there.
Oh, wow.
And for the people that I taught with, there are very, very few people that I actually were just peers with. Because I've been there so long, I've hired most of the teachers. So I've been there either as the assistant principal or the principal. I'm also not a person who's locked in his office all day. The though, there are days that things have to get done. I have to work on something. I have a presentation for the school committee. I have to work on it, and things go wrong, and there's interruptions all day here. But I like to be out and about. And the best feedback I get is, thank you for coming by just to say hi. Or because I think non-negotiables are the buses in the morning and the cafeteria. Though I negotiated myself right out of it today when I had an unexpected visit.
That's why you have the assistant principal of the year.
Right,
with you.
right. He's awesome. He is awesome.
Brian, another big aspect of your life, is the theater, right?
Sure.
And you grew up loving that, and I know that was something. Tell me about that love and that passion, and how has that impacted your career as a school leader?
Yeah. I tell children that when I entered high school in 1976, I had never really been in a play before. I might have been in some school pageants, but I'd never been in a play before. I really didn't know what the theater was. I had never been to a play. My parents didn't take me to plays growing up. And I was in a study hall with a first year teacher who turned out to be the drama director, and he invited me to try out for the first play that he was going to do, which was William Gibson's The Miracle Worker, the story of Helen Keller, and oh my gosh, it was I played Annie Sullivan's dead brother, and then at the end of the production, someone said, "Oh, you were really good." I was like, "Oh my gosh." So it was. I was not an outgoing person. I was not effervescent, but it taught me that I could be in front of people, and it really gave me my sea legs about and the tenets of public speaking. So it certainly helped me moving forward to when I did many different kinds of shows in high school. I did 3 shows a year, everything from Shakespeare to Greek tragedy to Chestnuts of the American Musical Theater. When I went to college, I felt I was ahead of people in terms of having opportunities to perform, and that naturally evolved into teaching. Maybe some 8 years later, what theater did was give me tools. And I tell kids I would be nothing. I could never stand in front of you and communicate if it wasn't for Tom Marcello, more than 40 years ago, who gave me an opportunity.
Yeah. And where did the desire to teach others come versus you were someone that wanted to go into the business? Like, when did you make that decision?
It was kind of happenstance. The year before I went out to do my master's degree in Michigan, I had spent that year being a long-term substitute teacher in an urban setting, and I did it just. I didn't know what I wanted to do. I was taking some coursework. I was applying to graduate schools. It was the mid '80s, job market not too good, and but substitute teaching was, it was all right, but it wasn't like this was going to be my career. But then I had an opportunity to teach summer school, and it was that connection. It was that power to know that you're making a difference in someone's life, as corny as it sounds, that really spoke to me. When I went out and did my master's degree, I had the opportunity to be a teaching assistant, and then to take over my own classes. I taught 3 sections of public speaking in that journey, and that was what was a wonderful, wonderful experience. So in the back of my head, I kind of like journalism a little, but I really liked the teaching aspect of it. But it took a master's degree in journalism to realize that.
Nice. And then when did the leadership component come in? When did you say, well, I want to do more than teaching and connect with more people? And how did that happen?
It was all by accident. I was just married. I had no kids, and there was a flyer in the teacher's room about getting a CAGS, a Certificate of Advanced Graduate Study, from a Massachusetts college, and get your professional licensure. So I looked in the contract, and a CAGS was just you were compensated for a CAGS just a little bit under a doctorate. And I was like, this is less work than a doctorate. I'll just go for this. And it was cheap. It was like $800 for 6 graduate credits. It was like crazy. So every Tuesday for 2 years, I drove to Cape Cod and took these classes through Fitchburg State College, and got my got my CAGs, but I got my administrative certificate, just saying I will never ever use this. This would be the most hateful job in the world. I'm just doing it for the money in the paycheck. And the last day of class, we found out that we were expecting our first child. So I was like, perfect. I have a little bump in the paycheck and that. And then you fast forward 3 years, an opportunity availed itself in the summer, where there was some shifting in our district, where the assistant principal was going to go over and lead the middle school. And then there was an opening at the high school. And this was at a time that my wife was pregnant with our third child. We were building a house, and I thought maybe I'll throw my paw in for this new assistant principal job. And I remember laying in bed the first day I was going to start this job, of a small, tiny rental house about 5 miles from here. And I thought, this has been the worst mistake of my life. I have no idea what I'm doing now. So it was all kind of by happenstance. And the principal I worked for, Joe Santos, he was a wonderful man. He gave me more chances and more opportunities to be successful, to try new things, to take on projects that maybe the traditional assistant principal didn't take on. And he really readied me to become principal of my alma mater 4 years later.
Wow.
So
that's a great story, Brian. And it's really amazing that, again, you've been so successful and stayed in the one place. I mean, you just don't see that very much anymore. And
why would I go somewhere else? There's no reason. There was always something. I was like, okay, well, next year I'm going to do this, and in 3 years I'm going to do that. There was always something I was planning for, and I really like the connection with children.
Yeah,
that does it for me.
And speaking of children, Brian, you have 3 grown children, 22, 20, and 19. You just had a chance to be away with them.
Yeah, I was lucky.
Tell me about balancing this all, Brian. You have your children, your family, your high school, the digital principalship. There's so many things going on. You're going to run to a basketball game now afterwards. How do you balance it all and keep yourself, grounded?
I do not do a good job in that. I don't. Sometimes I feel. I just went to see Jimmy Cassis speak last week. He was at a local, and he's a great man, and he renews my soul. But he was talking about the principals or the school leaders that give it all to their kids at school, and then they go home and they're miserable to them. And I was thinking, yeah, that's me. Daddy at school and daddy at home are two different daddies. And the unfortunate thing is I've sacrificed not being at my own children's event so I could supervise someone else's.
Wow.
At their event here. But it is about balance. I'm a work in progress. I'm still working on it. There were tough years. My kids, when they were little, went to more basketball and football and music concerts. And I mean, we're going to the high school tonight. Okay, pack them up.
Yeah.
So there was a lot of that.
Last week, I probably thought it wasn't a good thing, as my daughter was rolled up in the wrestling mat as I was in the other room at the game, and they were in the auxiliary gym horsing around. I hear you.
When my kids were little, they were too comfortable at the school because every kid knew their name. They would go over to anyone, and you're thinking maybe that's not the best strategy. But it all turned out okay. They're good. My oldest graduated UMass Amherst. She's applying to grad schools now. I have another at UMass Amherst, and my baby's at UMaine Orono in Maine. Yeah.
Brian, another passion you have is being a reader, and you use the word a voracious reader. And I love the quote that not every reader is a leader, but every leader should be a reader, and you certainly are. Tell me about that passion.
Reading is the one thing I do for myself. Hi, Coco. Come over and say hi. Look who's here.
Come on, Coco.
Look who's here. Coco's here. Oh, yes.
Beautiful.
We love you.
How old is Coco?
Coco's 3.5. She's a Portuguese water dog. She's wonderful. I know. I love you. I know. We love it. But reading some one thing I do for myself. So I almost scheduled time in the day. This is my crazy life. I do the same thing every Monday through Friday. I get up at 4:40. By 5:30, I'm having my breakfast and doing my first Ed Chat of the morning. I do BFC 5:30 every morning. From 5:45 to 6, I read before I go upstairs and get my suit on. When I get to school, I try to read for 7-10 minutes, and this is just whatever I'm reading now, and then I'll read before I go to bed. So I do have different times. I've started to listen to audiobooks. They're not called audiobooks. Yes, they are. They're not called books on tape.
Jimmy Casas reaching out to you.
Yeah, there we go. Thanks, Jimmy.
Yeah.
So I do a lot of reading. I read the education books. I read a lot of current fiction. I read a play a week.
Wow.
And that's neat. So that's it was something I challenged myself maybe about. This is my 4th year doing that. I had this whole library. I was like, I haven't read half these plays, or I read them once like 15 years ago. I couldn't even remember what they were about. So I just decided I was going to read a play a week. I really read. It doesn't take long to read a play. A couple days, right?
And you're reading obviously different things, from the thing you read in the morning to the thing you read at school to the thing you read at night, or all different things.
It depends. Today I was reading an education book. I'll do that, but I normally have maybe 2 or 3 books going.
And your routine, what time did your head hit the pillow at night then?
9:30 to I can't. I'm not good after that.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm not a night owl at any mean.
Why? Because we're up so early and running, and you know what?
But I'm great at 4:40. I'm ready to rock at 4:40 a.m.
Tell me about this Ed Chat BFC. What is that?
So it's a breakfast club 5:30. It's a group of people that meet on Twitter, #BFC 5:30 for 15 minutes every school day. It's probably the same 25 people from around the world. Yeah. And we have different people kind of come in and come out. And there's one. It's a one question chat. Someone throws out the question, and we respond. And it's funny. Right now, I have one of my old students from the 90s is now a teacher, and she's on it. And I think that's awesome. That's awesome.
Brian, where did this interest in Twitter and growing your PLN? Where did that start for you?
It started for me at my first national conference. For a couple of years, I had principal friends are like, "Why don't you go to a national conference?" I'm like, "I am too busy. I could never do that. Forget that. I'm not going." But then I did have it built into my contract, but I just never used it.
Yeah,
I had an excuse not to go. I'm too busy. My kids are too this. I have too much to work to do at school. And finally, I just kind of, it was fish or cut bait. I decided in, I believe, 2014 to go to the national conference in Dallas. And it literally changed my life. Where I saw these keynote speakers, these rock stars talking about their school and celebrating their wonderful school. And I'm like, this is wonderful. And what did I do on Twitter? Nothing. I only used Twitter and Facebook to make sure my kids weren't doing anything stupid at home. Making sure they weren't saying stupid stuff about other people or posting stupid pictures. I told somebody said, "Why aren't you on Twitter?" I said, "Because I don't care. I don't care about your kid's birthday party. I don't care about you going food shopping. I don't care about you at the restaurant. I don't care." And it wasn't until I went to that national conference, and I had a wonderful friend of mine, Paul Vieira, who's an assistant superintendent now. He really took me by the hand and introduced me to people and showed me how you did Twitter. And we were at lunch, and I ended up at lunch with Brad Curry, who is a national assistant principal of the year. Mm-hmm. I don't know who this guy. And we're talking, and I'm more listening than speaking. And he said, "Brian, would you like to be part of this Ed Chat next week?" I mean, absolutely. I have no idea what he's talking about, but I'm going to agree to it. And so he gives me this hashtag, and it says SATCHAT, SAT chat. And I was like, "Oh, no, I'm very interested in this." And I was like, "By the way, Brad, next Saturday, are you going to concentrate on the math section or the verbal?" And he's like, "Yeah, I want takes place on Saturday, SatMat." And I was like, So I was like, so for a while I just lurked. I just lurked and watched like what the cadence is in the chat, and it kind of formulated answers in my own head to it, but I wouldn't put myself out there because I wouldn't want someone to respond, "What are you, a moron? How could, what are you, 9 people just said that. We don't need to hear from your sorry self." But then I don't know, I think I responded once, and then someone said like they liked it or they retweeted it, and I was like, this is kind of interesting. And then I was all in by just kind of following what the different chats were out there. In the past few years, I've been regulars on a variety of different chats. And then my friend Marty Gagan, who Marty runs our state association NSAA chat, and I've been a part of that. And I find it powerful that professional development is in my own hands. And I can get better every day by just communicating with like-minded people out there who are not all, and it's not all sycophants. It's not all yes people. There are people there who will say, no, you are wrong. And this is the reason, and that's fine. And I think as long as we're respectful, we can disagree. So I have to thank the people at NASSP's national conference in Dallas. And it changed my life. And I was so, I was so blessed to meet people that when I saw them the next year in San Diego, I felt like I was an old friend. And I went to NASSP's first Ed Camp in San Diego, and it was like the dream Ed Camp. I mean, I was in there with Jimmy Cassis and oh my God, I can't even think of all the people here. Just like all these rock stars on it. Jeff Zool was there. I met great people from Long Island. It really just changed and shaped my thinking. And then I got who I met that? I met Jason Markey. And then someone said he was an NASSP Digital Principal of the Year. And I'm like, what is that? I never even heard of that. And he was so generous to me. I started to follow him on Twitter, and it opened so many windows. So I felt like when I grew up, I wanted to be like Jason Markey and Dwight Carter and Bobby Dodd, all these like wonderful, wonderful people who I met along the way. And now they're my friends.
And now here you are presenting as part of the team at the 2020 conference in DC.
That's right. One of the thought leaders here. That's pretty awesome, huh?
And now you did a great job. Sunday night, Brian hosted the Prince Leader Chat, which was a great experience. Something that I want to put some more time into, and I had a great experience doing that. Brian, that's a great journey and talking about the power of the PLN and the power of Twitter and just bringing people together. So very cool. Brian, we're running out of time here. We're going to get to rapid fire. Okay. I'm going back to the school board, and you're going back to the ball game. So here we go.
Tonight. Here we go. Here we go. Yeah, I can do it.
I know you're doing a lot of reading. The last book you read?
Last book I read was called The Lager Queen of Minnesota, a recent fiction book. It was outstanding.
Yeah. The Lager Queen of Minnesota.
Yep.
What made you pick that?
My wife. We were in the bookstore, and she said, she had read his first book, and she said it was awesome. Put it on your list. And we're big library people. I ordered it from the library. I got the audio book, so I do a little reading, a little listening, and I can kind of blow through it in about a week. It was a great, great story. I tweeted the author. He got back to me like this.
I love it.
I love that. That's awesome.
Isn't that make the world so cool?
I did. I love that.
Last movie you saw?
I think the Star Wars. I could say I saw the Korean movie Parasite, which I did, but that wasn't the last movie. Parasite was awesome.
Favorite place to travel?
I really like anything ocean. We did go to Iceland a couple of years ago, and that was a beautiful place. I'd love to go back to Iceland and kind of do a slow journey through that.
Wow, very cool. What is a great challenge in your work?
I think I battle mediocrity. I don't like mediocrity. Yeah. Good enough's not good enough here. I battle it. I don't stand for it, and I try. I would like to think I elevate people out of mediocrity.
I like it. Something that motivates you.
But the students, I recognize that I'm a powerful presence, and I take that very seriously, and I'm never not the principal.
I dig it. A pet peeve of yours is?
I'm go back to mediocrity.
Yeah, yeah. And you see, right? You could see so much more that could be done, or see so much more in that person. Yeah.
Absolutely.
The best purchase under $100 that has had a great impact on your life.
Oh, I bought a great portable speaker, a great one which has beautiful, beautiful sound to it, and I think I paid like $40 on Amazon. And it's been great. I brought it all over the country with me, and people always ask me, "Hey, where'd you get this great speaker?" Yeah, it's something like that. Mine's maybe not as nice as that one, but
Yeah.
I use it all the time. I use it at work. I use it at home. I bring it to conferences. So I'll say that.
Something about Brian McCann that people do not know about.
You know what? When I was 4 years old, I was bit by a German Shepherd, and I almost lost my eye. And I have a terrible scar here that when I was young was raised, and I was very, very self-conscious about that. So I think that's why I didn't talk a lot when I was little. And as I got older and grew more into myself here, the scar has faded. It just looks like I don't sleep, but it's a scar, and I can remember my grandmother holding my eye, and it was awful there. But growing up thinking you don't look like everyone else was I never forget that. And I see the scar every day, but people have no idea.
Yeah. And you love dogs.
I do. I've only loved 2 dogs in my life after that. I had a Basset Hound for a little while, and he passed away. I love that one here, but this one, I love Coco. I said, absolutely not. I won't have a dog. I won't do anything. I refuse to go. Forget it.
You don't go to conferences. Now you love it. You don't have the dog.
I love her. I mean, I some days I like him more than my kids. No, I do.
Boston College or Michigan? What happens when they play? Who are you rooting for?
I really enjoy my experiences were so different at both schools. I enjoyed both of them so much. I was at Boston College longer than Michigan. I was in Ann Arbor for 2 years. I was at Boston College for. I'm gonna have to say if I had to pick a sweatshirt, I'd probably pick my BC one.
There you go. But we got to get you out to the big house for a game.
I know.
Put it on the list.
I know. I absolutely have to go.
You'll be happy you did. It was an amazing
experience. That's bucket list for me.
I'm a fan of blank in New England.
Beaches.
A little cold in those beaches.
But we went. It was 70 last weekend, and we went on the beach with the dog. It was windy and cold, but it was so beautiful. There's something just renewing about beaches.
Absolutely.
Like the ocean.
Something that's been a hurdle for you.
A hurdle. You know what? I think that those demons in your head that say you can't do it, or that you're not worthy of it, are the ones that you wake up at 2:30 in the morning. Those things that haunt you in your head that try to keep you down. I don't know what it is about human nature, but there's that part of us that says, no, I can't. I'm a fake. Is this today? Someone's going to realize I have no idea what I'm doing. And I don't know why, because there's sometimes you feel fabulous and you feel empowered. You feel like you can do anything. You can change anything. And other times you're like, I am not worthy of all of this stuff here. So I think that's the biggest hurdle. Can you get through those haunting thoughts in your head?
You got to put that big filter in there. You're right.
Yeah.
Brian, how about a short-term goal for you, 3 to 5 months?
You know what? I'm looking for my next Google certification. I did the Google certification levels 1 and level 2, and I'm looking at trainer and to see and maybe even innovator. I don't know about that, but I'm thinking of it. So I'd like to throw my hat in for one of those. I think those are huge reaches for me, but
yeah,
I've reached for other things. So
Well, the Google search, just the first one is big, and you're level 2. That's great.
Yeah.
How about something 3 to 5 years, Brian?
Well, I'll have another adventure because I'll be 58 this year, so I'll be looking, towards retirement from this adventure and going into something else, whether that means leading or teaching in another state, because we're right on the border of Rhode Island. We're an hour from Connecticut, or seeing, what adventures there are out there.
Yeah.
I won't do nothing, but there'll be another adventure for me after Joseph Case High School.
And I like that you call it an adventure. It is an adventure, and with great things out there. Brian, how can people get in touch with you? You're big on social media. How can people reach out and connect with you?
No problem finding me on social media. Twitter, @Case High Prince, CASEHIGHPRINC. It's the worst Twitter handle in social media. But it's the one. It's the one I have, and this one. It's been good to me, so I can't complain. But it really, at Case High Prince, I'm also. You can find me on Facebook and Instagram as well.
Yeah. And Brian, how about a quote? Can you leave us with a quote here on the program?
Yeah. I've been thinking hard about it. I know you're a quote guy here. So I'm going to go to this musical that I took my family to last May. It's called Hadestown, and it's a reworking of some mythological characters. And at the end of it, the character of Hermes, who's the narrator, tells the audience that Orpheus had a gift to give, that he makes you see how the world could be instead of the way it is. And I think if we can take that metaphor and use it in terms of leading our schools, that if we recognize the power of the individual, that we can show children, we can show other adults the possibilities and the hope of this world instead of how it might be today. We give hope. So I'm going to go. So a shout out to Hadestown and Orpheus. It's a wonderful show. I listen to it constantly in my 18-minute commute.
That was a beautiful quote. We're going to put that in the show notes here. This was Brian McCann, everyone, 2018 Digital Principal of the Year. Brian, I really appreciate it. I know we had to reconnect multiple times, and you made some time over the weekend with your family to do that, so I appreciate it. We're going to sign off here on Education, Leadership, and Beyond. Brian, stay on the line a moment, but we are going to sign out. I am at Andrew Murata 21. Leave us a positive comment on iTunes or on Be Live. Again, Brian, thank you so much.
Thank you.
We are going to tune out here on Education, Leadership, and Beyond, everyone. Again, go out and continue to do great work in your school and community.
Be awesome.